So this is the second part of knowing the colonized. Welcome to the class. Let's see what we learned today. Today we are going to discuss about erasures of and simplifications and the conditions of knowing. The pattern of emphasis in functionalist studies of African political systems appears on the surface to be the opposite of what we find in Orientalist descriptions of Islamic rule. Assad argues, however, that tracing the directions of erasers reveals something else. African politics was already deeply enmeshed in the webs of empire when the functionalists arrived. By the late 19th century, the colonial powers had created, legitimized, and maintained the authority of innumerable African chiefs to facilitate the administration of empire. Thus, African political leaders, chiefs, and kings were almost everywhere subordinate to colonial rule. Interestingly enough, yet this massive coercive colonial presence is absent in functionalist descriptions of harmonious, consensual African politics. Even when the presence of empire was acknowledged, either by colonial agents or treated as simply another corporate part of native life, or the impact of encounter was euphemized and its violent, destructive role neglected. Functionalist anthropologists' commitment to the ahistorical study of stable, integrated societies inevitably led them to emphasize the unifying function of shared traditional values, unable to deal meaningfully with force and violent transformation. On the other hand, Orientalists gave no attention to the process of mutual accommodation between Islamic rulers and their subjects. The histories of populist revolts throughout the Muslim world that derived their legitimation from Islamic ideology, or indeed the plethora of evidence on the popular distrust of aristocratic institutions, taking these as examples of disorder and decay instead. They did not recognize that their sources represented the ideological positions of a literary merchant class that valued political stability, nor attended to the effects of a worsening commercial position in the face of the rise of European mercantilism. So, why was force foregrounded? Assad argues that while for functionalists, society and polity were usually counterminous, and that the horizontal links of tribal society were conveniently definable in terms of their vertical links of tribal political organization. Orientalists could not make a similar case. Instead, for them, Islam becomes the cement of horizontal integration, the essence of Islamic society, opposed to the temporary, whimsical, and forced vertical political dissonance. Thus, instead of society being defined by polity, it was fragmented by it. Thus, some common threads appear to run through these two seemingly opposite images, including the reluctance to acknowledge the presence and effects of empire and the attempt to find the essence of social solidarity and order. For Assad, the changing historical context within which each of these discourses emerged could explain their contradictory pictures. Functional anthropology was born after the societies its studies had already been colonized. By then, the colonial administrations had underwritten a set of so called traditional norms, including political ones, many of them reconstructed in the process of fixing the identities of the governed. Colonial ideology itself emphasized the essential continuity and therefore the integrity of African political cultures under colonial rule in order to portray empire as a benignant presence. Ironically, it was anthropologists concerned with protecting subordinate African cultures that made it easy for them to accept the colonial definition of African polities, and to restate that definition in terms of consent. Thus, the objectification of knowledge about African polities occurred within the context of routine colonialism, of an established power structure where violence and force are less obvious. Orientalism, however, emerged in the context of the European experience of Islam in the form of the Ottoman Empire and Muslim rule in the Mediterranean. Its roots lay in the ideological creation of Christian Europe against Islam, associated deeply with tyranny because of an apparent absence of a Muslim gentry and the subordination of women tied up together with Ottoman aggression. Hence, the persistent concern with civilizational contrast and the apparent lack of cherished Western values attempts to locate this lack in some Islamic essence. So, modern Orientalism emerged at a time of massive imperial expansion as an essentially literary method which did not require any direct contact with Muslims, nor was it invested in their continuity. Then, the narrative of repressive political relations as the norm in Islamic societies further legitimized colonial domination. After all, how was it any different from the eternally arbitrary and despotic Muslim ruler? Both African harmony and Islamic tyranny, thus, in seemingly contradictory ways, served to legitimize colonial rule. This is it for today. See you in the next one. Thank you.